Okay. Ooh. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Um, I kind of like try to spruce up my background a little bit, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is what we are reacting to today. It's titled How They Programmed You to Be Poor. And you know, this really caught my attention. I really want to know, first of all, who is the they we're referring to, why and how they programmed me to be poor, and you know, how to program myself to be rich. So yeah, let's get started. Okay.
You're about to discover the poverty programming that's kept you stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck. Make sure you watch this entire video. You know what's really interesting? People will never behave consistently in a way that's inconsistent with their programming. I said that too fast.
Bars.
People will never behave consistently in a way that's inconsistent with their programming. In fact, your programming runs on your subconscious mind. So let's pretend for a minute that your mind is a supercomputer. Get it? Let's pretend. Okay, so let's pretend for a minute that your mind is a supercomputer. And you've got your subconscious mind and you've got your conscious mind. In a computer, you have to have an operating system. What is an operating system? An operating system is the main software of a computer that tells that computer what other software programs it can and cannot run. The problem with our supercomputer of our mind is most of us, we did not choose our operating system. The cultural hypnotic societal mechanism chose that for us. And the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism, which includes the schools we went to, the churches we've gone to, our parents, our neighbors, our siblings, our friends, our coworkers, our bosses, our employees, the media, the government, all of it has programmed us with what I call a failure operating system. And if you put a failure program in a computer with a failure operating system, it can run that program. But guess what? If you put success software in a computer that's programmed with a failure operating system, all you're going to get is an error message. By the way,
Yes. This video is not going where I thought it was going to go. Like, I thought it was gonna be some, you know, BS get rich quick seminar kind of thing. But he made a very good point just now about like the environment you grow up in influencing what you think is possible or what you're allowed to pursue and allowed to achieve. So, like, growing up in Nigeria, let me get my mic a little closer. So, like, growing up in Nigeria, I know for a fact, like, someone my age who is like doing well for himself, or like, I'm not saying I'm doing well for myself, but I'm saying like someone my age who is doing well for himself in Nigeria, maybe has a nice car and, you know, the dressing like all lavish and whatnot. In Nigeria, that person is an anomaly, and it's so, the society is so unwelcoming of that in some regards that the police could actually stop you on the road that, wait, you're dressed a little too nicely for your age. And they harass you and try to extort money from you. And you know, I feel like it is possible to be in environments that are not conducive for success or not conducive for productivity, so to speak. But let me hear. I haven't really put my thoughts together properly on this issue. I didn't think it was going to go this way, but this is very interesting, and so far so good.
that's why so many people, when they hear some truth about wealth, they have to resist it because their subconscious programming won't allow them to run that program. And so success and failure both operate on are produced from the subconscious mind, or what I like to call the automatic mind. I like to call our subconscious our automatic mind and our conscious mind our manual mind. All of the results, like 90% of the results in your life, are produced by your automatic mind, which means you're not even aware of it. It's running below the surface. It's happening automatically, and you don't even see it. But here's what's interesting. Other people who are not programmed like you can see your programming. How many of y'all picking up what I'm putting down? And see, what happens is when we hear some truth that's unfamiliar to us, the first thing we do is we resist it because, well, that can't be true, because that doesn't go along with my paradigm. Because people will never behave consistently in a way that's inconsistent with their programming. But here's what's interesting. I don't know if y'all can remember back in the 80s, late 80s, when you'd have like the 8086 computer and the 8088s, and you had the floppy drives, and they came out with a new software system for the computer, came out with a new operating system. You had to uninstall the old operating system, which usually took a couple of hours, and then you had to keep putting these floppy disks in and taking one out, putting one in, taking one out, putting one in, and it took a long time to reprogram the operating system of that computer. Does anybody remember those days? Okay, good. A couple of us are old enough to remember those days. Okay, and so what happened is
it's funny he says that. I'm not. I don't remember those days, but I do remember floppy drives. I guess our technology wasn't just off there like that compared to like the timeline he's thinking about. But I do remember floppy drives.
They'd make new software, but the new software wouldn't run on the old operating system, right? And so you had to pick a day where, okay, I'm gonna have to uninstall this operating system, and then I'm gonna have to set an alarm to wake up in the middle of the night and keep on putting these disks in so I can use my computer tomorrow. Well, the same way it took a long time back then to uninstall an operating system and reinstall a new one, it takes a long time for most people to uninstall their failure operating system and install a success operating system. That's why you have to stay plugged into information and content that is reprogramming you, because eventually, here's what's gonna happen. I promise you, you see somebody, how many of y'all notice that when you see somebody who's really, really good at something, they're really, really good, they make something so complex look effortless. Like Michael Jordan was so much better than everybody else when he was in the NBA. When he played basketball, he made it look effortless. Tiger Woods made making birdies and eagles look like he was playing with a child's toy. Why? Because they had a totally different operating system going. But see, operating systems don't just affect us in sports, they affect us in every aspect of our lives. They affect us in our finances, they affect us in our businesses, and what happens...
Yeah. I mean, I get the overall point he's trying to make is if your mindset is if you have the mindset that you can accomplish the things you set your heart to, you have a higher rate of success. And since you're not approaching it from a place of fear, and you'll be more inclined to put your all into it, and that increases your chances of success. But I wouldn't really go with like a sport analogy like Michael Jordan, because aside from they having a mindset for success, they also had a particular set of skills that if somebody else with the same mindset as them approached the same thing, wouldn't do it half as good as them, just because they are like an outlier in the domain that they specialize in. So let's say somebody who is like 5'5" wants to do like the dunking and or those kind of stuff. It doesn't matter how much engineer they had to success in dunking. They may get better at like shooting and whatnot, but they're not gonna dunk on LeBron James anytime soon. So there is more to it, like success. That's the issue I have with like a lot of people who try to help you like gear yourself towards like generating wealth and whatnot. Is like there are a lot of factors that I believe contribute to that are outside of your control. You can take personal responsibility for yourself and the decisions you make, but at the same time, it is possible that a lot more things are out of your control than are in your control. So maybe you can adapt, you could maybe switch gears, if what you're trying to do isn't getting successful, maybe you could switch to something else, or maybe you could persist and then succeed in it. I really do not know, but your willpower is not all there is to it.
Happens is we resist because it's uncomfortable to uninstall that old programming. You know why it's uncomfortable? Because grandmama gave it to me. It's uncomfortable because mama gave it to me, because daddy gave it to me, because my uncle Sam gave it to me, and my Aunt Susie gave it to me. And so I don't want to take it out. My favorite teacher gave it to me, and my
This is gonna be a long video, but for real though, like that's true. Like a lot of times, like the things we do, like for example, if a child comes to you with like a drawing and it's like, oh, I made this beautiful drawing, and you say, oh my god, you suck, this, that, and the third, the child is probably not going to pursue drawing as much as they would otherwise have if you had given them some word of encouragement. So encouragement does go a long way, and a part of the things that make a society not conducive for growth is when growth is discouraged. Because in the same way as like I mentioned earlier about if you are successful, people kind of like look at you with suspicion sometimes. It's in the same ways, in the same way, like when you're trying something new and you're trying to grow in it, some people will discourage you and like, who do you think you are? Or look at you trying to do this, look at you trying to do that. And that could be very like demoralizing and has derailed a lot of people from pursuing things that they might otherwise have been really good at. So yes, I agree with that.
My pastor gave it to me, and the deacon gave it to me, and we have all of this programming that's not serving us and not giving us the ability to serve anybody else. But guess what? Did you ever notice that people who are failing like miserably, they make that look effortless?
Quit going to college. Quit your job. You're never going to learn how to make any money.
No.
You know, I thought this is what this video was going to be about. It's going to be like, quit your job. Get on that grind set. Be an entrepreneur. And this kind of stuff. Oh my goodness. Guys, don't quit your job if you don't have a better alternative on the line. If you have responsibilities you need to handle them. Don't neglect your responsibilities for the sake of chasing your dreams. In my opinion, like some advice are generally good advice but might not be good advice for you. So I'm not like, it's not like I'm like 20 something years old, guys. I don't have all the answers to life. I'm just giving my opinions on these things as I see it. So it's like, I wouldn't recommend it. You know, don't quit your job. And if you can't go to college, please go to college. It gives you more options to work with, even if you end up not using it and no knowledge is lost. But you know, don't ruin yourself with debt at the same time trying to get a college degree that you might never use or have no interest in using. But yeah, let's carry on with the video.
No, I'm not trying to be funny. They're not saying, I'm just going to wake up and mess up my life today. It's just all the moves they do that day just mess up the whole day. Why? It's their programming. And now watch this. This poverty programming, like you have been programmed to be broke. The cultural, hypnotic, societal mechanism has programmed you to be sick, broke, misinformed, and fearful.
I will say though, because at the start of this video, when I saw the title, how they programmed you to be poor, I wanted to know who the they was, how and why they programmed us to be poor, and how we can reprogram ourselves. And so far the video has succeeded in answering who the they was. So the they is not just some hypothetical they, like they programmed you. It's the cultural, hypnotic, something mechanisms, societal mechanisms, I believe you said. So that makes sense. That makes sense to me because yeah, the culture you are in a way is the hypnotic part comes in because the culture you are in, what you perceive as normal is what you see around you as you grow up. So in a way, even though it's not normal, if that's the normal you grew up in, you are culturally hypnotized to accept those societal mechanisms. Bars. So let's see, bro. Yep.
And guess what? As long as you are running this program, you're going to be sick, broke, misinformed, and fearful. Either one of those things or all of those things. Why does the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism want us sick, broke, misinformed, and fearful? Because people who are sick, broke, misinformed, and fearful are easier to control than people who are healthy, wealthy, well-informed, and courageous.
Yeah, and so sometimes some things are just spiteful, and some things are like, okay, on a cultural level, like I will use the area I'm familiar in where I grew up, right? I grew up in a place where the government is not the best. It's corrupt, and the well-being of the citizens is not necessarily something that even crosses the mind of our rulers sometimes. And and that kind of corruption and selfishness, greed, short-sightedness somehow along the line have become so ingrained in our culture that we seem to, on a general level, have adopted a general disdain for somebody, for encouragement, right? When somebody's trying something new, something productive, I've had so often, so many times I've seen like people get really discouraged. I've had so many stories of people whose parents told them they could never amount to anything. That's messed up. And I've had so many stories of people who were like kicked out or they are disowned and those kind of things. And it's like so common, like where I grew up. Like it didn't happen to me in my parents' house, but a lot of people get discouraged. As a matter of fact, it did happen to me, but not from my parents. I remember there was a time in school because I liked drawing and I was drawing in class, and this teacher walked up to me and slapped me straight across my face. Like, why am I drawing a class that I'm wasting my parents' money, because we do pay for like school, high school, middle school, the parents pay for those. Then I'm wasting my parents' money, and they slapped my face because I was drawing on my break. So like, definitely some spite definitely plays a role in that. So even just outside of trying to keep people down, is also like you see somebody trying to do something that maybe you couldn't do or didn't have the courage to pursue, and instead of trying to build yourself up, you try to bring the person down. That's messed up. And if you're that kind of person, like, pay attention to the thoughts that cross your mind, and you can actually make adjustments to it. It's not like nobody, like, you can't change your perceptions of those kind of things. So I could do it subconsciously, like he said, but like, if you pay attention to what you are actually doing and like question your motives and maybe make some adjustments so that you don't be such a hateful person that growth upsets you.
And so what we have to do is we have to recognize the program, but see, we have to recognize where it comes from. Do you understand every time the politicians lie to you and tell you they're going to end income inequality? How do you know they're lying? Because they can't end income inequality, because income doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's the result of something. What's it the result of? It's a result of value that's created for somebody other than you. So until you eliminate value creation inequality, you can't eliminate income inequality.
Ooh,
they're lying.
Bars. And like, yeah, that's the great debate between equality of outcome and equality of, is it options? I escape my mind right now. But yeah, like, you can't give everybody equal resources, because not everybody is equally as productive. Like, to make everybody have exactly the same thing, you have to have some like really heavy-handed totalitarian like systems in place, and you have to take from somebody to give to another person. Whether or not you think that's right or ethical is a discussion for another day. But yes, you cannot erase inequality of resources without erasing inequality of productivity, and everybody can't be as equally productive in certain fields or in productive in general, because we all have different strengths and weaknesses, as well as attitude or willingness to do productive things, which is not always a bad thing either. Not there is more to life than producing stuff. I'll say that. But yeah.
Government wants you to think that businesses that are successful because the owners of those businesses are evil. But the reality is, the promoter of that message is the one that's evil. Now, there are some businesses that are evil. I'm not saying there are no businesses that are evil. There are some businesses where the owners have evil intention. But that's not generally the nature of business. The media, the movies. I'm not crazy about movies, but the movies that I hate the most, superhero movies. I can't stand them. They're so terrible. They have programs.
Sir, you want me to draw my sword? It's made of wood, by the way, guys. Even those was wondering, it's not real swords. It's made from bamboo. But yeah, superhero is weird, awesome, right? Nowadays, yeah. But superhero movies, yeah, Ibano.
So many people to be broke. Say, what do you mean? Like you never even thought about that before, right? See, they started programming you when you were a little kid. Anybody remember this guy named Superman, right? Superman. You remember who he was, right? He was an adopted poor little orphan from another planet. Who was his arch enemy? Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor, what was he? Multimillionaire. Subconsciously. They don't have, see, do you understand that every time a story is being told, it's being told on two levels? There's the covert story. That's the part that talks to your head. It's only there to distract you. And the overt story, that's the part that talks to your heart. It's there to program you. Okay, what about Spider-Man? Oh, another poor little orphan. Raised by his aunt and uncle. Oh, who's his arch enemy? Oh, that's right, the Green Goblin. He wasn't a multimillionaire. He was a multi-billionaire. They're always associating wealth with evil.
Yeah, I would disagree with that, because these are just like two examples. Batman is a billionaire, right? And I could say like his arch nemesis, the Joker, is like the opposite of a billionaire. So I don't think you could like put that as a track. There are a lot of superheroes that their arch nemesis is not a corporation or like a billionaire corporation or something like that. The reason I think why most of the time they depict the heroes as of humble beginnings, and their antagonist is usually like some other group of people, is that they generally want you to be able to relate to the protagonist of the story. So they go for the most common denominator, that okay, most people can relate to somebody of like an average societal status, trying to make ends meet, and struggling to pay bills and doing that. And in some cases there's a big corporation at hand, but not in most cases, I would say, because I can actually think of, as outside of Superman and the other one you just mentioned, I really don't know that many superheroes whose main antagonist is a huge corporation or like the government, something like that. That doesn't happen often in superhero stories. So yeah, I'm inclined to disagree. Like Shield is a whole, like, pretty much, yeah, like it's kind of independent from the government, but pretty much like a government basically controlling the whole of Marvel. And Tony Stark is a freaking millionaire, So yeah, I don't really agree with that. Sometimes those stories appear that way because those are what people can mostly relate to. So I wouldn't attribute our fascination with communism to superhero movies, although he is right, like what you see does influence you. Stories that we listen to and the stories that are told to us through movies, through the news, those things do influence how we see ourselves and the stories we tell about ourselves to other people. So yeah, there is something to add, but I just disagree with the superhero caveat he puts on it.
And I know what you're thinking. See, I already know what you're thinking because I'm a mind reader. You're thinking, but Batman was rich? How many of y'all were thinking that? See, I knew it. I knew you were thinking. I knew. See, you got to get up early in the morning. You're gonna catch me on that one.
Okay,
you're right.
Okay.
Batman was rich,
fair enough.
but he's the only superhero with no superpowers.
Iron Man.
Now, which one would you rather do? Have a cool car or just fly? Okay.
Not exactly. If Batman was rich and he's the only superhero with superpowers, I don't think that's a mechanism of in a communist agenda. That's just like, okay, Batman is this guy, super intellect, combat skills and whatnot. So for the story that they're trying to tell about that character doing extraordinary things, his wealth is a huge plot point on how he's able to do the things he does. Somebody like Iron Fist is from humble beginnings and he also has martial arts skills, but like he needs to have like a superpower or something in like an ace up his sleeve so that he can be a superhero, right? Like Hawkeye, I'm gonna reserve my comments about Hawkeye as a character, right? And how he became an Avenger. But Hawkeye, for example, is a regular guy, no superpowers and whatnot, but he's not poor and it's not like he's a regular guy. It's like, you know, he ends pretty decently, you know. Green Arrow is rich. He's the mayor, and he has no superpowers.
Okay, I'm not. I can't even go there yet. I can't go there yet, but I will. I'll touch on it since you brought it up. Okay, just be ready. Okay. So I know the other thing you're thinking. Yeah, but Iron Man's rich.
I just reading mine.
Don't you? I'm reading your mind. I already told you. But watch this. Iron Man is a narcissistic jerk who takes advantage and walks of everybody and walks on everybody. So if they make a superhero that's rich, they always give them an undesirable character trait. What about the?
Nah, he started off that way. He grew as a person. He eventually became somebody who is willing to sacrifice himself for the good of the world, so to speak. So, you know, I still disagree, sir.
Black Panther. See, here's what the enemy did with the Black Panther. Black people, we felt so disenfranchised that, unfortunately, far too many of us, just because something's black, we want to go with it. But see, here's the problem I had with the Black Panther. They were literally in the movie teaching ancestor worship. Ancestor worship? What am I worship my dead ancestors for? God's the one that made him. I think I'm gonna worship him. Black Panther was cool. He was rich, he was cool, he was smart, he could fight, he did all that. But they had to throw that answer because the enemy is always trying to trip us up. And he'll use.
First of all, who is the enemy? I'm confused because that threw me out for a loop. So far, the day as described in the video is the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism, right? That was the day with programming us to be this way, and I was on board because your society does influence the way you see yourself and the things that you perceive as possible and the things that are actually possible for you. Your society plays a huge role in that. So I was on board with that, but now it seems like there's another enemy that I don't know of that has sneaked into the plot. I hope you will clarify on who that enemy is, but so far I am stumped. And about the ancestral worship in Black Panther, so just because the story is depicted in a culture that is different from your culture or a culture you agree with, doesn't necessarily make it bad storytelling. So if the only knock against Black Panther was that there was ancestral worship in there, that's the world the Black Panther movie is set in. It's set in Wakanda, where the Panther spirit, as they see it, bless them with a hero that saves them or fights for them and advocates for them from generation to generation. That's the story. The spirituality and ancestral worship is integral to that. That's like watching Game of Thrones and saying they are sneaking mythicism and magic in it. It's a magic show. There are dragons in it. You know, it's part of the story. It doesn't make it any, well, the ending was kind of crap, but it didn't make it any less of a good story because there are magic elements in it. It's just a story about magical elements.
Whatever method necessary, whatever method possible. See, I'm going to tell you something while I'm on this subject. Our primary identifying factor should not be our color, and it should not be our gender. It should not be our educational level. It should not be the amount of money that we have. It should not be an association that we're a part of. It should not be our fraternity. It should not be our neighborhood. It should not be our country club. Our primary identifying factor of our lives should be the fact that we are redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. And if that's not first, you got the wrong thing in first place.
Okay. Now it makes sense. Now I can see who the enemy is. The enemy is probably going to be the devil. So initially, I was of the impression that this was just like straight up financial talk, but it's kind of like it has like religious connotations to it. I'm a Christian. I have no problem with like religious preaching, but I was just surprised because I didn't expect it in this video. Okay, so now that I know like where like the seminar leans towards, I can analyze it or watch it with a different perspective.
Thinking about going solar, but not sure whether it's worth it for your home? Well, before you get quotes, there are 3 things you need to know about going solar and why.
If your house looks this nice, then you could probably afford to get solar. Yeah, solar is expensive, at least as far as I know for now.
I am not black first. By the way, Martin Luther King dreamed of a day when a man would no longer be judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. And now we want to be judged. We just want to judge things by the color of the skin. Do you understand every time you go along with something that's, as a black person, every time we go along with something that's black and whack, we're just doing what the oppressors of our ancestors, we're agreeing with the oppressors of our ancestors. The most important thing about us is the color of our skin. And it's not. I personally like being a brother, you know what I'm saying? I like my brother swag, you know what I'm saying? I like it. But guess what? If I was white, I would enjoy that just as much. Because watch this, I am made exactly the way God desired me to be, and I'm not in competition with anybody. So I can celebrate you, and it don't take anything from me, and I can celebrate me, and it don't take anything from you. And if you think me celebrating me takes something from you, I'm not the one with the problem. And if I think that you celebrating you is taking something from me, I'm the one with the problem. James, the brother of the Lord, he wrote a book in the New Testament called James. His name was really Yaakov, which is Jacob, but King James, and they changed it to James, and it's not James, it's Yaakov. But anyway, James, the brother of Jesus, here's what he said. He didn't say James, the brother of the Lord. He didn't say James, the senior pastor at the church of Jerusalem. He didn't say Reverend James, the senior pastor of the church of Jerusalem. Here's what he said. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. That was his primary identifying factor. And if it's good enough for the half-brother of the Lord, who's a senior pastor at the church of Jerusalem, it's good enough for me for it to be my primary identifying factor. We have been programmed by the government, by the media. Do you realize that Hollywood started waging war on business in the 1970s? We didn't even see it. By the time the average American turns 18 years of age, they've seen 10,000 people murdered on television and movies by business people and entrepreneurs. They've seen more people murdered on television by entrepreneurs and business people than more than even career criminals. No wonder people don't want to go into business. All they want to.
I really like to hear what you guys think about what he said and about what I'm about to say also. Like, when it comes to like the media and society programming us maybe through like the businesses, the kind of products they push, the kind of advertising we see, the kind of movies we see, the kind of things we see in the news. When it comes to that and how it influences us, I am of the opinion that most of those are consequences of what they think we would be interested in, as well as their own propaganda as well. But they gear it in a way that they think we would be able to receive it. And I think that's a method has been there as old as time, from pharaohs and like monarchs claiming to be deities that should be worshipped. Is in a way the people are looking for something to believe in spiritually, and those people like, okay, yeah, believe in me, I'm the one who will lead you into eternal life, so put your trust in me and as well as your cash while you are at it. And even with advertising, like what you said about, we've seen more killings on TV by the time we're eating. It's not even really a new thing, even before TV. Like when people were actually fighting wars on a daily basis, an average 18-year-old would know somebody, or at least a few people who had gone to war or something like that, or hear about a lot of what's happening, because war is always happening with us. And in a way, there's something we find fascinating about, aggression and violence. That a story that integrates that properly is very appealing to us, or sports that incorporate violence is very appealing to us. It's not that the violent sports are making us violent, it's that the violent sports exist because we want to see violent sports. That's why some people don't watch, I don't know, somebody like, I guess somebody will probably watch me tap on this mic for 34 hours straight, but not a lot of people find that particularly interesting. So I couldn't push a propaganda to hypnotize people on to be patient and tapping their mic by doing this. But if people are interested in doing it and I'm seeing the views and whatnot, and I'll be like, oh yeah. So I'm not really it's like a lot of the things, like actually like the news always pushing bad news, because bad news is what sells. So it has like I think it's a vicious circle of sorts, because the things we find interesting are the things they push to us, and as a result, the thing they push to us because they keep pushing it to us because we find it interesting also reinforces that, and it keeps growing and creating a snowball effect. But I don't think it's like something we could just point at corporations. Maybe there's some responsibility we could also take for ourselves for why we find certain things compelling and why we are so inclined to watch violent things. Instead of blaming violent movies, maybe we should examine ourselves or just not watch violent. If people stopped watching violent movies, they would stop making violent movies, I think.
Want to do is save the planet. They've been programmed. But let me say this. You weren't born with any ideas. All of the beliefs you have, you got them from somewhere. So you might want to check the source before you start running 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction and end up off a cliff somewhere. So here's what we got to do. We got to understand that the results that my life is producing those results automatically. And so if I want to produce some different results, I have to reprogram my automatic mind. I have to be intentional, and I have to be aware. I have to be aware of the fact, like, where is this coming from? I know from Genesis chapter 1, there are 4 levels of value. The lowest level is implementation. Use your muscles. I'm not going to do it that way. Use your muscles over time. That's the resource you use to make money. This is why you're broke. What do I mean by that? Wealth is a spiritual result. Wealth is a spiritual result. Wealth is spiritual. It is not physical in its nature. It is spiritual in its nature. It's spiritual in its nature because money that you have can be in more than one place at a time. Only spiritual things can be in more than one place at a time. The thing that gives money its value, there's nothing backing the money. There's nothing backing this money I have in my pocket. The thing that makes it valuable is the message that it carries. A $100 bill is more valuable than a penny, even though the material the penny's made out of is worth more than the material the $100 bill is made out of. So if money were material, a penny would be worth more than a $100 bill. But a $100 bill is worth 10,000 times more. Why? Because on a penny it says 1 cent, which means 1% of $1. On a $100 bill it says $100, which means 100 times $1. So the message that it carries is the thing that makes it valuable. But watch this. The other reason it's valuable is because we believe it's valuable. So the 2 things that make money valuable are the message that it carries and the faith that it creates. Language is spiritual and faith is spiritual. Wealth is a spiritual outcome. But muscles are a physical resource. Time is a limited resource. We're multiplying a physical resource times a limited resource, and we're attempting to produce an unlimited spiritual result. No wonder you're broke. Second level, unification. Unification, second level of value. On that level, we use our management skills to make money. We're not broke. You might make anywhere from $40,000 to $250,000 a year. But if a company's paying you $250,000 a year, here's what they want you to know. They want you to know they own you. They don't care nothing about your child's recital, your grandfather on his deathbed, nothing, right? What's the next level? Above that dotted line.
It depends.
Is where wealth begins to create it. This is communication. This is the second highest level of value. The highest level of value is imagination. Most, like here, your income on the communication level is going to be somewhere between $100K a year if you sell cars, and it might be $100 million a year if you're an A-list actor or an A-list singer, or maybe you write songs, or maybe you write movies. $100 million a year. These are communication. Imagination. These are the people who come up with the best idea. Or the resource you use here is your mouth. You got to have a mouth. You got to learn how to use it. Pretty much everybody here qualifies for the first part. Now you got to start working on the second part. And then your mind, the resources you use up here for imagination are your mind and your money to make money. When you do that, this will take your life to a whole nother level. But you've been programmed to stay down here or to work real hard and get a degree so you can move up here. And this you don't even value. Do you realize, and I'm going to end with this, in business school, they don't even teach you how to sell. You go to school for 6 or 8 years to learn how to be a lawyer. They teach you how to practice all this law. They don't teach you how to get any clients to practice law for. You go to school for 8 to 20 years to learn how to be a doctor, and they teach you how to work on the human body. They don't teach you how to get any human bodies to work on. We've been programmed to be broke, and poverty programming is costing you a fortune. That's why I always say, if you're broke, if you make less than $50,000 a month, you can't afford to be watching television. You need to be using that time to read some books to learn a new skill. But don't you want to see them? I don't want to see them. I want to be them. I want somebody watching.
Yeah, I think that's on that point where he loses me, because I take personal issue against that statement and statements of that kind, that if you make less than this amount of money, you shouldn't be indulging in like leisurely activities. I mean, definitely you don't want to be like lackadaisical and lazy about things and neglecting your responsibilities, but that doesn't mean you can't like breathe and like enjoy a movie. That doesn't mean you can't live life, so you don't have to make more than $50,000 a year to make to enjoy a movie. I think that's even a very privileged thing to be able to say, because most of the world isn't making $50,000 a year. So, and not every like this. I hear that thing even about sports. It's like, oh, you're watching people play sports instead of you go out and playing sports. I enjoy watching sports, so watch sports. I mean, I personally don't like sport, but like if you do enjoy watching sport, watch sports. If you enjoy watching a movie, watch a movie. If you like reading books, I like reading books. I haven't read all of those books, but I enjoy reading books, so I do that. And it's not like I'm reading like about the philosophies of this world all the time. It's like sometimes I just like a good sci-fi, a good fantasy book, So I disagree with that statement of you need to make $50K a year just so you can like put your feet up and sleep at night. Like you have to work all day all night because you are not as rich as the next guy. Live within your means, and if you feel you need more to survive, do what you need to do to handle your responsibilities, but that doesn't disqualify you from taking a break.
To me, live my life on TV. Okay, I'm done. So that's how people are programmed to be broke for the rest of their life. Don't let the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism program you to be broke, because your family deserves better than that. God bless you. Like, subscribe, share.
Yeah, that was a good video. There were a lot of insightful things in there, but I do disagree with him on a number of things. Agreeing with somebody on everything is an unrealistic bar to set for anyone. So I also keep that in mind, but I do disagree with him. The cultural hypnotic societal mechanism is really subject to perspective. To some people, it might be positive, some people might be negative. So in a way, what somebody might perceive as programming to be broke, and maybe he's trying to like reprogram us to be rich, is like, there are things you could do to increase your level of productivity, but there's more to life than producing things, right? And making 50K a year, I don't think that is a sustainable life goal, like for your life, as something you aim to make you feel complete as a human being. It can be a target for yourself, a goal you set for yourself that you can pursue if you think it's something like it's realistic for you to pursue. Even if you think it's unrealistic, if you want to pursue that, that's fine. But that not meeting that goal shouldn't make you feel like you are less than, well, just because you don't have as much money as somebody else, mean that you are less deserving of basic human day-to-day living. So enjoy the entertainment you want to watch, enjoy the hobbies you want to do, live within your means. You're not in competition with anybody. So if you want to work 50 hours a week, so you could get to some accomplishments, that's up to you, but you don't have to be a complete human being. So that would be my take on that. This became a more than 45 minutes long video, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.